A 52-year-old man gets told he has stage 4 colon cancer, and his first instinct isn't to cry, isn't to rage, isn't to bargain with whatever higher power might be listening. His first instinct is to call his filmmaker friend and say, "We're making a comedy about this." And what's fascinating is, it works, not just emotionally, not just artistically, but as actual public health intervention. This film has a 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, won 2 major awards at Sundance 2025, and its core message is 5 words long: get a fucking colonoscopy.
That's André Ricciardi. And his film, André is an Idiot, isn't just another terminal illness documentary dressed up in dark humor. It's something we rarely see, a dying man who refuses to be tragic while fully acknowledging the tragedy of his situation. It's time to understand this deeply.
Let's establish what we're actually looking at here. André is an Idiot premiered at Sundance 2025, won the Audience Award for U.S. Documentary, and took home the Jonathan Oppenheim Editing Award. That's significant because editing awards recognize structural innovation, not just emotional impact. The film is coming to limited theatrical release on March 6, 2026, through joint venture with backing from A24 and Sandbox Films. These aren't small players. A24 gave us Everything Everywhere All at Once. Sandbox Films specializes in science-driven documentaries. Together, they're betting that audiences want something radically different from traditional illness narratives.
But here's the cultural context that makes this timing so interesting. We've spent 2 decades watching prestige documentaries treat difficult subjects with such reverence that they become emotionally sterile. The cancer documentary formula has been diagnosis, struggle, acceptance, maybe transcendence, definitely tears. André and his director Tony Benna looked at that formula and said, what if we just told the truth instead? The messy, inappropriate, hilarious, terrifying truth about what it's actually like to know you're dying.
The runtime is 88 minutes. That's a deliberate choice. You're not asking audiences to endure a 2-hour meditation on mortality. You're giving them something that feels like a conversation with a brilliant, inappropriate friend who happens to be dying.
And the stakes here extend beyond box office. If this film performs well, it signals to distributors that audiences are ready for documentaries that treat serious subjects with intelligence and irreverence. If it underperforms, we might see a retreat back to safer, more conventional approaches.
There's also a public health dimension that's impossible to ignore. Colorectal cancer is the 3rd most common cancer in the United States. In 2025, an estimated 45,000 Americans died from it. The screening rate hovers around 75%, which sounds decent until you realize that number represents millions of people who could catch it early but don't.
André was one of them. He avoided colonoscopies his entire adult life. By the time he got symptoms, it was stage 4. And instead of letting that mistake define him as a cautionary tale, he turned it into something far more powerful, a confession wrapped in comedy, wrapped in genuine emotional truth.
The production challenge here is something most filmmakers would run from. Tony Benna, the director, is documenting his friend dying. Not a stranger, not a subject he met through research, a friend, someone he's known for years. And that friend has built his entire personality around deflecting serious moments with humor. The first day of filming, Benna photographed what he called André's key physical attributes: the big hair, the beard, the Converse shoes, the way he moved through a room. Why does that matter? Because Benna understood he was creating an anchor point. André would change physically and psychologically as his illness progressed. That opening portrait would become the baseline against which everything else would be measured.
That's extraordinary filmmaking instinct. Most documentary directors would start with the diagnosis, the emotional moment, the obvious hook. Benna started with the person. Who is André when he's not dying? What makes him André?
And then came the waiting. Benna describes sitting through months of filming where André's irreverence never cracked, the jokes kept coming, the deflection kept working, and Benna had to resist every instinct to push for vulnerability to manufacture the emotional breakthrough that would make the film work.
This is where the educational principle of emotional engagement in learning becomes visible. Research shows that authentic emotional experiences create stronger memory formation and behavioral change than manufactured sentiment. Benna intuitively understood that a forced emotional moment would feel false and audiences would sense it.
It wasn't until the last month of André's life that the shell finally cracked, and when it did, Benna was there to capture it. Not because he'd pushed for it, but because he'd created the conditions where André felt safe enough to stop performing.
The film uses multiple visual languages to tell this story. There's verite footage, obviously, but there's also stop-motion animation, therapy sessions with André's wife Janice, interviews with family members. Each visual language serves a different emotional register.
The stop-motion animation is particularly smart because it allows the film to visualize André's internal experience without exploiting his physical decline. You can show his psychological state, his fear, his sense of absurdity through animated sequences that feel dreamlike rather than voyeuristic.
And the therapy sessions with Janice ground the entire project in reality. This isn't just André's experience, it's about the ripple effects of his choices on the people who love him. How do you protect your family while simultaneously making a comedy about your death?
That's the question the film keeps circling back to, and it never offers an easy answer. Here's where we need to understand something that health communicators have struggled with for decades. Traditional public health messaging relies on what researchers call fear-based appeals. Show people scary statistics, graphic images, dire consequences. The assumption is that fear motivates behavior change. But the data tells a different story. Fear-based messaging works for immediate, one-time actions. Buckle your seatbelt right now. Don't text while driving this moment. It's much less effective for preventive behaviors that require ongoing commitment or feel distant from immediate threat.
And colonoscopies fall squarely into that second category. The threat feels distant. The procedure feels uncomfortable. The avoidance feels rational in the moment, even when it's objectively irrational.
This is where narrative-based health communication becomes powerful. When you embed a health message in a story, particularly a story with emotional resonance, you bypass the defensive mechanisms that make people dismiss statistics and warnings.
André's film operates on exactly this principle. He's not telling you to get a colonoscopy. He's showing you what happens when you don't. And he's doing it with enough humor and self-awareness that you can't dismiss him as a scold or a victim.
There's a cognitive mechanism at work here that researchers call humor as cognitive disarmament. When someone makes you laugh, your defenses come down. You become more receptive to information that might otherwise feel threatening or judgmental.
Think about it this way. If a doctor tells you to get a colonoscopy, you might nod and then immediately start rationalizing why you don't need one yet. If André Ricciardi makes you laugh about his own preventable death and then says, "Get a fucking colonoscopy," that message lands differently.
The film's final line is exactly that. Get a fucking colonoscopy. It's the entire public health argument distilled into 5 words, delivered by someone who learned it the hard way. And because you've spent 88 minutes laughing with him, crying with him, watching him refuse to be tragic, that message carries weight that no pamphlet or PSA ever could.
This is why audiences are describing the film as life-changing. It's not hyperbole. The film is literally changing how people think about their own mortality and health decisions.
But we need to acknowledge the tensions here. Some critics argue that the film uses humor to avoid deeper emotional engagement, that André's irreverence is a defense mechanism the film romanticizes rather than critiques.
I think that misreads what Bene is actually doing. The film shows the transformation from humor as defense to humor as genuine coping mechanism. But the critique raises a legitimate question. At what point does documenting someone's death become exploitation, even with their consent?
André was a producer on this film. He had creative control. He chose to participate, but he also couldn't have fully anticipated what it would feel like to have cameras present during his most vulnerable moments. The film shows some of that discomfort. There's an inherent power imbalance in the filmmaker-subject relationship, even between friends.
There's also a question about access and representation that the film doesn't address. André was a successful San Francisco advertising executive. He had the resources to document his death professionally, a director friend willing to commit months to the project, connections that got A24 interested. What about people facing terminal illness without those resources?
That's a structural inequality worth naming. The ability to control your own narrative, to be remembered on your own terms, is not universally available. André's film is extraordinary precisely because it's rare. Most people die without the opportunity to shape how they'll be remembered.
And there's a question about whether this film's success might create pressure for other terminal illness narratives to adopt a similar tone. Not every dying person wants to make a comedy about their death. Not every story benefits from that treatment.
The risk is that André is an idiot becomes a template that gets replicated without the same depth of emotional engagement and artistic integrity. Dark humor about death could become a genre rather than a genuine artistic choice.
What remains unresolved is whether the film will actually change colonoscopy screening rates. The public health impact is theoretical until we see the data. Will people who watch this film actually schedule the procedure? Or will they leave the theater moved but unchanged?
Looking forward, I see three distinct possibilities for what this film represents. First, and most immediately, it could become a case study in medical education and public health communication. I wouldn't be surprised to see medical schools screening it, public health departments using clips and awareness campaigns. The economic model is interesting too. A24 is betting that there's an audience for documentaries that treat serious subjects with intelligence and irreverence. If this performs well theatrically, we might see more studios taking similar risks on challenging documentary content.
The second possibility is cultural. André's refusal to be tragic, his insistence on being remembered as a complete person rather than just a patient. That's going to resonate with audiences facing their own mortality or watching loved ones face theirs. We're exhausted by false seriousness and performative empathy. André's film offers something more honest, a refusal to pretend that dying is anything other than what it is, while insisting that it doesn't negate the possibility of humor, connection, and meaning.
The third possibility is aesthetic. We've had the observational documentary, the essay film, the activist documentary, Is André is an Idiot, the beginning of a new category, the collaborative, emotionally intelligent documentary that treats serious subjects with both gravity and levity.
I think audiences are hungry for that approach, and I think filmmakers are going to study how Bene balanced intimacy with his subject, patience with narrative drive, humor with genuine emotional depth.
The March 6th theatrical release will be a crucial test. Word of mouth matters enormously for documentaries. If people leave theaters telling their friends, if social media fills with conversations about colonoscopies and mortality and laughter, then we're looking at a genuine cultural moment.
And regardless of commercial performance, the film already exists as a record. André Ricciardi's final months are documented with honesty, humor, and love. That's a legacy that transcends box office numbers.
So here's what we're really talking about. a film that refuses to sentimentalize dying, that treats its subject with respect and irreverence simultaneously, and that might actually save lives by making people take their health seriously. When you watch this film, you're not watching someone else's tragedy. You're watching someone refuse to be tragic while acknowledging that his situation is genuinely tragic. That's a distinction that matters.
André is an Idiot comes to limited theatrical release on March 6, 2026. If you're looking for a film that treats you like an intelligent adult capable of holding complexity and humor and heartbreak all at once, this is it. And that's what we do here at Deeply. We find the stories that challenge how you think about the world, whether it's technology reshaping industries, science revealing new truths, or a man making a comedy about his own death. New episodes every day, exploring what matters most.
This is Deeply. Get a colonoscopy.